In 1967, the Beatles released one of the most ambitious and emotionally complex songs of their career, Strawberry Fields Forever. While it's often discussed for its dreamlike lyrics and the psychedelic sound, the story behind the song's recording and its lasting legacy is just as fascinating. Harnessing revolutionary studio techniques, Strawberry Fields Forever stands as a defining moment, not just for the Beatles or 60s music, but for pop music as a whole. John first began writing the song in Almería, in the south of Spain, while filming Richard Lester's film How I Won the War. Michael Crawford, who was the star of the film, detailed how Lennon would strum the same chords over and over again until he got it right. He was fascinated by how a song was made. John had a lot of time to write in the downtime of filming. Strawberry Field was the name of a children's home for girls near where he used to live. As a child, John Lennon and his friends used to climb the fence and sneak into the gardens of Strawberry Field, finding a quiet escape from the chaos of their lives. Those simple moments of peace stayed with him, etched deeply into his memory, and Lennon later said he would go there to forget about his troubled childhood. Strawberry Fields Forever captures that yearning for escape, but it's far from the only song that offers a glimpse into the complexities of John Lennon's mind. If you want a detailed account of the meaning and the origin of some of the ideas behind the song, please go check out my video on the hidden meaning of Strawberry Fields. It's technically a part 1 to this video. So after returning home, Lennon continued working on the song at his Kenwood residence, recording a series of demos to refine the arrangement. These included some stripped back solo guitar takes, experimenting with overdub with additional instruments like guitar and keyboard, and even early attempts at double tracking his vocals to build the song's texture. After several months off, the Beatles returned to the studio to begin recording of what would become Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. But how were they going to tackle the new record? Look, John said to George Martin, it's really quite simple. We're fed up with making soft music for soft people, and we're fed up with playing for them too. But it's given us a fresh start, don't you see? The recording of Strawberry Fields Forever at Abbey Road Studios marked a turning point for the Beatles and producer George Martin. This wasn't going to be a typical pop track. Instead, it became a months-long experiment that would push the limits of studio technology and redefine what was possible in popular music. The major turning point was that the Beatles had given up touring, so they didn't need to take into account that the track needed to be played live. They could make it sound however they wanted. So with this in mind, a new creativity had flourished within the Beatles at Abbey Road, and John was desperate to make Strawberry Fields Forever the first song they recorded with this new, freeing mindset. Geoff Emerick recalled the first time that he heard Strawberry Fields Forever. Down in the studio, George Martin was perched as usual on his high stool, positioned in the midst of the four Beatles. John was standing directly in front of him, playing an acoustic guitar and singing softly. Because he wasn't close to any of the microphones we'd arranged around the room, I had to push the faders up quite high to hear him. From the very first note, it was obvious that this new Lennon song was a masterpiece. He had created a gentle, almost mystical tribute to some mysterious place, a place he called Strawberry Fields. I had no idea what the lyric was about, but the words were compelling, like abstract poetry. And there was something magical in the spooky, detached timbre of John's voice. When he finished, there was a moment of stunned silence, broken by Paul, who, in a quiet, respectful tone, said simply, "That is absolutely brilliant." The first takes, recorded in November of 1966, were stripped back acoustic arrangements with Lennon singing plaintively over Mellotron and guitar. It was vulnerable, slow, but still eerie. But Lennon still wasn't satisfied. It wasn't what he imagined.
Living is easy with eyes closed.
Just notice how it doesn't kickstart with the chorus too. Over the next few weeks, the band, and particularly George Martin and engineer Geoff Emerick, began layering new arrangements. They added backward cymbals, Indian instruments like the swarmandal, and lush brass and cello. The result, after all these were added, was a thicker, more hallucinogenic sound, but Lennon still preferred the vocal feel of the earlier take. And that's when things got complicated. So eventually Lennon decided that he liked the structure and the tempo of one version of the song, take 7, but the mood and vocal of another, take 26. The problem? Well, they were in completely different keys and tempos. A few days later, he rang me up. George Martin relates in his book, All You Need Is Ears, and said, I like that one, I really do. But you know, the other one's got something too. Referring to the newly recorded version of the song in comparison to the earlier version. Yes, I know, I said. They're both good, but aren't we splitting hairs? Perhaps I shouldn't have used the word split, because John's reply was, I like the beginning of the first one, and I like the end of the second one. Why don't we just join them together? Well, there are only two things against it, I said. One is that they're in different keys. The other is that they're in different tempos. Yeah, but you can do something about it. I know, you can fix it, George. George Martin continued, John always left this kind of thing to me. He never professed to know anything about recording. He was by far the least technical of the Beatles. He had a profound faith in my ability to cope with such problems, a faith which was sometimes misplaced, as I certainly felt it was on this occasion. He had presented me with an almost insufferable task. But I had to give it a go. So rather than abandon either version, George Martin and Geoff Emerick pulled off the remarkable feat. So using a pair of tape machines, they sped up one version and slowed down the other until they matched. The resulting splice, occurring around the 1 minute mark, was seamless to the untrained ear, but revolutionary in practice. It seemed like nothing could stop the two of them from creating studio magic to whatever the Beatles requested. Just to be clear, the version that we know today is the first half of take 7 and the second half of take 26. And the finished version was awash with psychedelic elements. So the Mellotron, which was played by Paul McCartney, created that haunting intro. Take a listen to it on its own. Geoff Emerick said that that was the big breakthrough in the song's creation. The big breakthrough that night, according to Geoff Emerick, was Paul's coming up with the stunning Mellotron line that opens the song. Paul's inspiration really set the stage. But, however, if you observe a scene closely in the Beatles' movie The First US Visit, John can be heard playing on a melodeon, what uncannily seems to be the opening notes of what became the Mellotron introduction to Strawberry Fields Forever, which is played by Paul. So, did Paul store away that intro, or is it just a coincidence?
Follow this.
Channel 2.
I made 5, 6.
You have to get on channel 2.
Yeah, we're on this thing now in a minute.
I'm not too sure. The Mellotron had first been acquired by John in 1965 and used in Tomorrow Never Knows. But now it was time for the instrument to take centre stage to create that unworldly feel of the song. Reverse tape loops and Indian-inspired textures give that song that ethereal quality too. Ringo Starr's drumming is loose and almost hypnotic, while George Harrison's guitar swims through reverb and fuzz. In total, it took them 55 hours to create Strawberry Fields into the song that we know today. It pushed the studio techniques that they'd messed around with on Revolver even further, making new possibilities for pop music that no one thought possible. The style of the studio isn't just trying to make the song sound trippy or matching the vibe of other bands in the era. It's about trying to disorientate the listener, placing them inside Lennon's mind, where his past and his present are blurred together. In a bold move, the Beatles released Strawberry Fields Forever alongside Penny Lane as a double A-side single in 1967. The pairing was genius. You've got Lennon's dreamscape versus McCartney's cheery nostalgia, and both songs are paying tribute to their shared Liverpool upbringing, but just vastly different in sound. So where Penny Lane is clean and bright and cheerful, Strawberry Fields is murky, disjointed and philosophical. The two tracks highlighted the growing creative divergence going on between John and Paul. It was Brian Epstein and George Martin's idea to release both tracks as a double A-side. Brian was especially keen to release the songs as soon as possible in order to recoup some of the popularity that he felt that they'd lost since they quit touring. But despite being recorded during the Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band sessions, Strawberry Fields Forever was left off the final album, a decision that George Martin later called the biggest mistake of my professional life. Had it been included, Sgt. Pepper would have arguably been even more groundbreaking. But even as a standalone single, Strawberry Fields Forever marked the true beginning of the Beatles' studio era, their transformation from mop tops and pop stars to truly groundbreaking artists. I think I'd be a bit daft not to mention this bit too. So in the song's final moments, when it all descends into instrumentation and like mumbled speech, well, famously, some listeners claim that they could hear Lennon say, "I buried Paul," when the track was played in reverse, a line or another clue that added fuel to the Paul is dead conspiracy theory. Lennon would actually later have to clarify, saying that he was actually saying cranberry sauce. But if you're into all that, go and watch my Paul is Dead video if you want to find out more about the clues and whatnot. Today, Strawberry Fields is considered one of the most innovative and emotionally complex songs of the 20th century, and Rolling Stone ranked it among the greatest songs of all time, and countless artists from Oasis to Radiohead cite it as a major influence on them. But its true legacy lies in its emotional depth, and I've kind of already gone through all that, so yeah, again, go check out part 1 for more on that. In hindsight, it's clear that Strawberry Fields Forever was Lennon's way of navigating his own mental state. He had long struggled with abandonment, his own identity, and the loss of innocence since becoming a Beatle. Through this song, he created an outlet where he could work through his traumas. This song comes before the sort of raw confessional style of his later solo work, songs like Mother, God, Working Class Hero, but the seeds are still there. In Strawberry Fields, he's testing the waters out of what he's willing to divulge, using sound to process his pain. More than 50 years on, Strawberry Fields Forever remains fresh, mysterious, and emotionally powerful. It's a song that rewards repeat listening because, well, at the end of the day, isn't that what good music is all about? Thanks very much for watching, guys. Hope you really appreciate this one. Go check out part 1 if you've not already. Plenty of Beatles videos and things like that now. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.